Hi, and thank you for joining The Wholehearted Man today. I am John Dew. Today I'm going to be talking about what it means to be a man. I think we've all heard about or thought about what it means to be manly. We hear from other people about manliness and what that actually means. And I think the general consensus on that is that you got to be tough. You got to, work hard. You got to, just carry your load and not complain and on and on and on. And I think part of that is true. But I think there's also a portion of that that needs to be clarified. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I made some quick notes. I'm going to make this a quick video, and I just want to run through these things, and we're going to expound on these later. But so to me, the definition of what it means to be a a real man is a man who knows who he is, basically, that has a set of skills that he's worked on, and the result of that is that he knows who he is. So when you double click on that, this is what I think comes up for that. So one, he has a basic level of self-confidence commensurate with your age. So this when you're kind of a real man, you have a sense of self-confidence, and that self-confidence comes to you, depending on what age you are at different levels. So if you're younger, you may not have as much self-confidence as you do when, let's say, you're older, you've got a family, you've got kids, you've been through some stuff, you've had experiences and everything, and that's okay. It's okay to not, have it all figured out right then and there. And believe me, even as you get older, at different ages, you're still going to doubt yourself. There's still going to be times and things that you're doing that you wonder if these are the correct things to do. All right, number two, let's see, the ability to take in ideas from others. Now, I think this is huge because this is where all the learning begins. So to do that, you've got to be able to listen without getting offended. And I think that's part of the biggest problem in today's society is people get too offended because somebody says something that they disagree with, or maybe they don't even disagree with, you just don't understand. I've had that happen where I've spoken to someone, we're talking, kind of debating about something, and the person just, because they thought the words I was using was initially disagreeing with them, and at the end of it, this person said, well, I guess actually we agree on the same thing, after I was just patient and went through it and kind of vetted everything out for that person. They're like, don't be that person. Listen to what they're saying. Be open to the ideas. Doesn't mean you've got to take in everything and immediately change your mind. That wouldn't be good either. But you're able to take what somebody else says, listen to it, process it, and then formulate your own ideas. So another part of that is in order to do that and take in ideas from other people, you've got to put your ego aside and realize you don't know everything. I've seen a lot of these guys walking around. They know everything. I remember one time I was talking to this guy. He was a father. I had no kids at the time, and I was talking to his son, actually. And I said, we were talking about science and planets and the sun. And I go, did you know our sun is actually a star? And the father's like, no, it isn't. I'm like, okay, well, then what is it? I don't know, but it's not a star. So obviously there was probably some jealousy, something going on there where this person just felt less than, maybe, not even necessarily jealous, but just didn't feel, because he didn't know that, he's just going to come down and say something. But, you got to put your ego aside in order to hear what somebody else is trying to tell you. Okay, after that, you must change your outlook from rejecting other people's ideas, and when you do that, you're actually rejecting them, and that doesn't lead for a good conversation, into wanting to receive ideas and the input of others. To create a curiosity of the world around you, and making that curiosity a genuine curiosity. So when you meet new people, when you run into new things, you are able to look at them and go, wow, I really would like to know more about this. I'd really like to understand. It doesn't mean, you go meet some guy that's shooting up heroin and go, wow, I'd really like to understand more about, how he's shooting up heroin and how that whole thing works. You don't necessarily have to know everything. And if there's some fundamental things that, aren't good for you, it's okay to not inquire about those. But you've got to generally open up. And I know I had a big problem with this, where I judged too much. I would meet people and immediately judge. for other reasons than we've even got time to go into in this video here. But I would judge these people. I had an ego. I had a low sense of self-esteem, and all those things prevented me from learning more than I could. Learning, period, from certain people. And then that leads to missed opportunities because you're too busy either kind of arguing with somebody and they realize you're not capable of taking that information in, and so they're just going to move on. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, a real man understands that life is to be navigated, and not every problem is insurmountable, nor every problem is needs to be resolved either. So, when you go through life, you've got to realize that problems are going to come. Not every problem is a big deal. When people, they use the word drama, they are saying, making things, blowing them way out of proportion, way more than needs to be. And so when that happens, people tend to look at that and think it's way more than it is. And sometimes when you just break it down, ask a simple question, think about it from a different perspective, sometimes like that, you can just disseminate or eliminate this problem and boil it down into something much more manageable. And also on the other side of the coin, not every problem is yours and not every problem needs to be solved. If you're, say, dating someone and everything is drama and everything is a big problem and it just doesn't matter what you say, what you do, it's really not going to help. I mean, even if it does, technically help in a way, but this person is always going to be bringing this to the table, then I think at the end of the day, probably best to not be around somebody like that. Okay, number 4, he realizes that he has value to give to others. And realizing this is profound because you can get behind this basic sense of purpose, and it gives you purpose to get out of bed in the morning. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So when you realize you have a value, when you wake up and you go, I can contribute to this world. I actually, this world needs me and it needs the best me. And when you work towards being the best you and you start contributing to people in this world, even at the very beginning, if it's in the smallest, most minute way, from simply just a smile, holding a door open, and you wake up and go, I can be better today at the end of the day than when I woke up. And you can do that because you're able to, enact some small change to somebody else, then you're starting on your road to being able to contribute more and more and more. So, you've got to really realize you've got this purpose, and everybody has a different purpose. And sometimes a lot of us, I think, overlap, right? It's okay to have a purpose of being kind, nice, and giving on this planet, just as it's important to have a purpose of when you see wrongdoings or things happening that are not right, that you stand up for those. But on your day-to-day purpose of you just waking up, going to bed, waking up, going out, meeting people, talking to people, that you have value to give through insight. And even if you don't feel you have very much value right now, you should always have in mind that you're going to learn and you're going to grow, back to the beginning numbers here that I was reading out, that you're going to learn and grow. And as you do that and you take in and you formulate ideas and grow your wisdom, that you can then give that back out into the world. So for me, I'm a business owner. So my goal is not to just run a business and make money. My goal is to have my team members be in the best environment they can be, for me to be the best leader I can be. And I'm working on that every day. And I've come a long ways, but I got just as much to go on that, and really improving and being that leader and providing the best environment for my team. Okay, let's see. Number 5, he can think clearly and logically. And I think this is huge because nothing else matters if you don't really have the ability to think clearly, to logically weigh ideas. This is where I think a lot of people go wrong, because they just regurgitate stuff they heard from somebody else. They have no context from which to put it in. And I think that's why sometimes when you're talking to someone, back at the beginning when I'm saying, when I was talking to someone, at the end of the day, we actually agreed, but in the beginning, they just immediately disagreed and fought me on that because they didn't understand what I was saying. And I think when you can just calm down, take in that information from somebody else, logically process it. Even if you don't agree with it at the end of the day, you can have a much better, much more well formulated response, even if you don't agree. Let's see here. You got to put your ideas to the test against others' ideas. And I think that's great, right? There's arguing and then there's debating. There's a big difference in that. If you look at Jordan Peterson in that video that made him famous, right? That is an example to all of us as to how to remain cool and collective and get your ideas across. And because the other person, the lady that was interviewing him was just trying everything in the book, putting words in his mouth, trying to twist everything he said. He just stated the facts and remained calm and cool. I mean, that was, as a model to me, that is how it needs to be. And then when you are talking to other people and you're debating your ideas, and you're debating against a worthy opponent, right? If you view them as a worthy opponent, okay, this guy I feel is matching me or even better than me in his skills and his ideas. That's beautiful. Do that because steel sharpens steel. So when you're rubbing up against somebody else, very quickly, it's going to be apparent. A lot of people get butthurt and they run away from that, or they don't like the fact that somebody else knows more or is a more eloquent speaker than them. They have ideas or a different way of looking at things. Again, I know back in the day, that was one of my big issues. I just didn't like that. I felt inferior. And so now, as I talk to people, I'm the first to ask questions. I'm the first to want to hear everything they have to say. Number 6. A real man can express his ideas thoughtfully and clearly. So what do I mean by that? It means that you have I'll start with the basics, a good grasp of the English vocabulary or whatever language you happen to be speaking, but you have a good grasp of that you're able to use words in the way they're intended to get your point across. And I think that's huge because when you're able to speak and say what it is that you mean exactly and get your point across concisely and eloquently, people are going to start to listen to you more. You're going to not just be, throwing out this or the F-bomb maybe every 5 seconds because you have pulled back a little bit and are in control of your words. Let's see. And then, the thought that goes into your responses or the words you say is everything. So when you're talking about these things and they are coming out at least more thoughtfully, you're going to have a better chance of getting those across. Okay, number 7. A real man understands the value of communication and can therefore communicate effectively. So this is kind of back to what I was saying just a minute ago, but that was more thinking and being able to get your thoughts across. But communication is a two-way street. So in order to communicate effectively, it's, like I said, a two-way street. It's not just you talking all the time and then you shut up and the other person talks and then you wait till they shut up and then you talk. No, it's about being fully engaged and present when somebody is talking to you, right? Have you ever spoken to somebody and they're on their phone and they're not paying attention and then you're trying to tell them something, at the end of it, they're like, wait, huh? Right? That's not good communication. That the act of communicating between two people is not happening. So what I think is the most beneficial is to really work hard to listen and hear what they're trying to say, not trying to formulate your response in your head and waiting for them to be quiet so you can then just, come back and do something. I think there's great power in being able to hear someone and actually dissect what they're saying. It gives you the potential to find out what their motive really is or where they're coming from, or maybe there's a hurt in there and they're just reacting from that. Okay, number 8. Oh, sorry, I'm going to back up 1 second. When you communicate with somebody and you hear what they're saying, you're able to connect with that person. And that builds rapport. And when you build rapport with somebody, you're going to have a much better conversation at the end of the day. Okay, number 8. A real man takes care of his mind. He feeds his mind right and is always working to grow, but he also takes time to rest and play, right? You're taking care of your body, of what you put into it, and what you how you what you feed it intellectually, what you feed it physically, and then you also take time for yourself to relax, to enjoy your life a little bit, to do whatever it is that makes you happy. For me, I love gardening. I got a vegetable garden in the backyard. I love doing that, spending time with my girls, stuff like that. Okay, let's see. Number 9, I kind of already said, but it takes care of his body by not putting bad things in it, like drugs. So you are what you eat, the old cliche, but it is true, and science is proving that more than ever, that when you put in food that is laced, with chemicals, with sprays, that's non-organic, when you are taking in different things that are not good for you, like too much beer or too much alcohol or drugs, that's probably not going to be the best for you. So therefore, you're going to not get the best out of you. I think that's pretty simple. Everybody knows about that type of thing. All right. So number 9, he is empathetic of others and can take in their point of view or understand their pain. If this can be done, a connection can take place. So like I said before, if you're communicating as a two-way street with somebody and you're taking in what they're saying, that's great. But if you're taking in what they're saying to smash them or crush them in a debate, which is not necessarily bad, but if you're trying to make your point and win an argument, let's say, that's kind of one set of communicating, in that communication, that's one way to do it. But let's say you're just talking to a friend that came to you with a problem, maybe somebody died in the family, or it's a girlfriend, or whatever it could be, and they come to you and you're empathetically listening to them. You actually care. I had 2 friends, 2 main friends in my life, and one I'd call when I'd say I had a girlfriend issue or something, or a wife issue. I was married. And one of them would be just like, all right, well, screw that, screw her, she's a bitch. That's what I'd get. The other one I'd talk to, he'd talk about things and question me and press me on things and, look for my responsibility. And that was much more fruitful than just the, screw that. So when you're listening to someone and you're able to take in the information and you're able to just listen and be there for somebody, and sometimes they just need to talk and they don't need us, to fix anything. They just need to vent. They just need to get it out of their head, because many times in the act of talking something out, I've sit there and watched people will sit there and figure out their own solution to their own problem. I know I've done it many times. Should be number 11. They are not afraid to say no. I loved this quote. I don't know who it is, and I remember it from so many years ago, but an indicator of a confident man or a real man is the ability to turn down a dinner invitation without having to give an excuse. So what does that mean? That means that somebody asks you out for dinner and you're actually confident in yourself. And I don't need to explain and give 15 different excuses to this person why I can't make it, because I'm living my life pretty much okay. So if somebody says, hey, can you go to this or can you do that? And you go, you know what? I really appreciate the invite, but I'm not going to be able to make it. Maybe next time. That's it. Simple. And people will respect you more when you keep it clean like that. They start pushing you and pressing you and trying to get all in your business. That tells you something about the other person. A real man is capable of being kind and gentle. Doesn't mean you don't know how to be strong. Doesn't mean you don't know how to kick somebody's ass, but you are able to sheath your sword and you're able to just be kind and gentle when it's called for, which hopefully that is most of the time. So when you're at work, when you're with your friends, when you're just alone, when you're with your wife, kids, right? You're sitting there and you're kind and gentle and you're thoughtful of these people. Doesn't mean, you're out somewhere and somebody says let's say, is threatening your family, you're not able to kick ass because you need to, which brings me to the next one. You're strong in your mind and body, and you're able to rise to the occasion. You've been in situations that have pushed you to a limit, and you were able to come out. You didn't give up, let's say. It could be simple things that are built upon. So you did something, you didn't give up. That's how self-confidence is built. And then you build on that and build on that. And then you're able to, when the situation arises, to pull upon those things. And you're able to be just cool, calm, and collective in those traumatic situations. I've known people that when something happens, they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And others where they're just calm and cool and they handle the situation and then freak out afterwards. That's fine. But they're able to just handle the situation in the moment. And I think there's, I think a real man, is reserved because he's got that confidence underlying in that base. Okay, the next one, knows how to look at things, study, evaluate them, and then is able to, let's say, fix them. So what do I mean by that? There's too many men in this world, in my opinion, that don't know how to do much. I mean, changing a light bulb potentially for some of these people is a big deal. And maybe I've literally seen guys, one person in particular that was just lazy, right? So there's nothing you can do for lazy. So if that's not you, and you're up for the challenge, then we've got to learn how to fix things, how to deal with things, how to put things together, how to look at that. And one of the ways to start with that is to just start with small things and figure it out and put it together and learn. And I know there's a ton of people and guys out there that love to do that, right? You'll build computers, you'll work on cars, you'll do whatever, right? So to have that ability is ingrained and kind of innate in some of us. But man, have I also, and it's a much rarer occasion, but seen guys that don't know how to do much. They have no tool set. I mean, go out and get a freaking basic tool set, man. Some screwdrivers and pliers and wrenches and just some basics so you can, change some batteries in a child's toy, or you're able to just fix some basic things around the house. I think just having a basic tool set is important. It may not sound like much, but at the end of the day, it goes towards, again, building a confidence, ability to rely on oneself. So when you can rely on yourself because you know you can handle the situation, or you can come up against something you haven't really done before, but you're pretty confident in being able to at least figure some of it out, even if it's figuring out that it's better to have a professional do it, so be it. I've seen way too many commercials where men are being kind of emasculated because we're portrayed as dumb. I remember one insurance commercial in particular, I think is what it was, where there was a leak in a pipe and the wife is looking at it and the husband walks up and says, "I'm going to fix that." And she basically just laughs at him and then flashes back to something else he tried to do. And it was a big, horrible mess and got all screwed up because, all men are idiots. And so in that commercial, her husband's an idiot. And they're going to call the professionals. Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to emasculate a guy, that's the perfect way to do it. So if that's a commercial on really how to just put down your man, there you go. A real man is loyal to those that deserve his loyalty. When you've got people around you that count on you, they also need to be people that you can count on. And just having that basic loyalty and trustworthiness that if somebody really needed to, they can come to you. Doesn't mean you're a pushover. Doesn't mean you're out trying to please everybody, because that's really the opposite end of that spectrum. And you're doing way too much in the wrong space of trying to just please everybody. So when somebody comes and they really need something and they can rely on you, that's the kind of guy I think you need to be, and what a real man does. And again, this is all built from self-confidence, which we'll go over in other videos. You spend time around others that elevate you, and for you to elevate them. It's your community, it's your friends and your family, and these people in your life need to elevate you, and you in turn elevate them, or you elevate them and them in turn elevate you. it's a general lifting, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. And so when you come from that mindset and you're a real man and you can help out, you're not just fleeing from helping, and you can add value to somebody else's life, I think that's key. And the last one, let's see, or maybe there's two more, but one is definitely work hard, not lazy. You're not sitting there playing video games all day, doing nothing with your life. You're out there working hard, bettering yourself. Whatever it is you want, that's up to you, but you're bettering yourself. And that's all that matters, is that every day you get up and try to make it a little better than the day before, than at the beginning of the day. So when you end that day, you feel a little better. Just pick one thing. What can I do? What can I learn? What can I progress on that adds up over time? You want to play video games all day, or you want to go on social media all day, or you want to sit there and, try to just go on these online datings and score with every chick you can. I mean, yeah, you can do all that, but at the end of the day, it's pretty hollow, pretty false, and it's not really going to get you anywhere. Okay. Last one for being a real man. And I think this is almost one of the most important, is that he is a father and a husband who works hard to not only provide monetarily for their family, but just as important, to give his time to his wife and his kids, because they need him. So you can have all these attributes, you can have everything, but if you can't ultimately, at the end of the day, assuming you're going to get married and have kids, if you're in that position, you're not just providing money and raising your, providing money for your family so they can survive, have a roof and food. I mean, that's all great, but you've got to give of yourself. You got to give your values and your time, because at the end of the day, the kids want nothing more than your time. I mean, I've just heard a lot of bad stories and seen, people that really just don't give a shit about being a parent. And that really bugs me at the end of the day, because people who have kids that don't want to be a parent, you're screwing up those kids' lives, right? And if you want to think about it in another way, you're sending these people as little kids, then they grow up to be adults, and you're sending them out in the world that everybody else has to deal with. So you're raising your little monsters, your little, the next generation of jerks. So my girls have to go out in the world and deal with the a-hole you raised. And I really don't appreciate that. If you can understand, and it may not even be that you're doing that on purpose. You're not, beating your kids, and you're not just screaming at them. And, so obviously that's one end of the spectrum, but you're just not there, and you just kind of emotionally abandon them because, you've got to make the money, and there's time and places. This isn't all black and all white. Sometimes you just got to work hard, and sometimes you got to, make up for that time. But at the end of the day, your kids need you. They need you there in the important times. Who's going to be there for them? Obviously, the mother's there, or the mother's working and you're there for them, fine. But I'm talking about the situations where you're out working, and you're that parent that, is not, a mean, bad parent. But maybe you just don't realize how absolutely important it is to give your kids the time that they need, to sit down with them, to talk to them, to take interest in their lives, to just play a board game with them. And there's a lot of great fathers out there. And there's a lot of these guys. You guys are doing, phenomenal work as parents, and we need more of that. And I think we need to speak up and talk more about, what that means and what that looks like, and model that for other people. But at the end of the day, these are my lists of what it means to be a real man. And we're going to dissect all these later. So I would appreciate, please, to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, bring any questions you guys have into, either type them below or email me at thewholeheartedman@gmail.com. Again, that's thewholeheartedman@gmail.com. Just email me your questions. I will read them in the future videos and answer the questions and see what I can do. So if you're struggling with anything, just send that to me and we'll see what we can do. All right, until next time, thanks, and be wholehearted men.